Hey everyone, Mr. Wineland here with Chapter 10, Section 3. Sorry for the late post. It's been kind of tricky lately with Screencastify, the software I use. It's kind of being funky with Google right now. So I do apologize for getting this up on the Google page for those who missed the presentation. But we're going to kind of run through it real quick. It won't take long. We're pretty much talking about the tribes and their ability to kind of bring order into their territories right around the Indian territory phase, especially during cattle drives. Tribes were basically leasing a lot of land to their cattle, or for the cattle that were coming through with cattle drives, and so you're seeing white settlers are coming in, they're passing by, and they're using the land or leasing out the lands. And we see in 1883, Cheyenne Arapaho Stock Growers Association leased about 3 million acres of land for grazing of 200,000 cattle. This became a bit of a problem, though, because you would have a lot of raiders come in, people who would just destroy property. In 1885, there was a lot of cattle ordered out because of confusion over the lease themselves, of the grazers not paying the lease, fights amongst the cattlemen, unlawfulness of cattlemen grazing. So this became a bit of an issue as far as property being damaged, and so who's going to police who, and so you're seeing this throughout the five Southwest tribes try to figure this out. And so Cherokee Strip Livestock Association in 1883 actually paid the Cherokee for grazing rights, about 100,000 a year. They would fence off the area to kind of protect the cattle, and then fence with the fenced area, police it as well. Your answer to number 23 is everything in blue right here. But the Light Horse Police was one of the very first police forces the Cherokee had formed to kind of be able to apprehend criminals and kind of be able to monitor the area, have court systems, certain punishments. Punishments would vary among the 23 tribes. I'm sorry, not 23 tribes, the five civilized tribes and other tribes there. It varied. So first offense usually was lashes, about 25 to 30 lashes, kind of depends. Your second offense would be more severe lashes. And then your third offense could lead up to death. Not all the time. Again, it varied on the punishment. But we would see here that would happen around this time is that you would see that those who were put to death, which we're mostly talking about Native Americans, they would be able to go home, have a few time with their families before they would have to come back and be hung. If they did leave, did not come back. If they didn't come back, they always left, but they didn't come back for their punishment, they were labeled as cowards. And so that became always something in the back of their minds that, hey, I don't want to be issued a coward, because if they really truly believed in Native American lifestyle, there was the kind of the viewpoint that I would not be accepted into the ancient burial grounds. But it kind of depends. It happens. But maintaining order, you see a lot of tribes do this. The Osage had their own police unit. You see Kiowa, Comanche had the Anadarko Agency that helped. The Cheyenne Arapaho went to the Darlington Agency for help. Most of the problems they had were mostly liquor. Liquor was not allowed in their land. Mostly they had to deal with some outlaws, some individuals going across state line trying to sneak in liquor, which that's where it had bootleggers smuggling in their boots, the top of the boots. That's how the bootlegging gets its term. But we had a lot of whiskey traders along the borders and of the territory. The answer number 24 is Indian Territory. So a lot of whites would hide out in Indian Territory because they were not bound to the law of Native Americans. And so this was kind of their way to hide out. So a lot of criminals, a lot of fugitives. They saw refuge in the territory. A lot of robbers, whiskey peddlers, cattle rustlers, horse thieves, hid in rugged lands of the territory. You're dealing with a lot of forests, a lot of caves. You had a few famous ones, the Doolins, the Daltons, the Jennings Brothers, Cook Gang, Turner Gang. There's some women that also, as well, Cinnamon Star, were some that were part of a gang that hid out in the territory as well. We do see, though, that there was order during this time of the territory in 1871. You see the federal judge court district court was established in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Jurisdiction included from Isaac Parker. Even before that, they had a little bit more of a broader scope of the territory as well as other parts of the South, that region of the South. But by 1871, it was just mostly Fort Smith. Isaac Parker is your answer number 22. But Parker is known for organizing his own set of deputies that would go after criminals and those who were breaking law. Sometimes you would have martial law. He would hold a court for 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, posse of deputies, known as the Tumbleweed Wagon. They had no funds for a prison, pretty poor conditions, pretty nasty conditions, had to sleep on the floor, maybe not get a blanket, cramped in with people. If you did get a bed, it was like a straw-filled bed, but it was moldy and gross. It wasn't until a newspaper actually calls it medieval barbarity that eventually Congress is like, okay, you can get funds for a new jail. And so Isaac Parker is known for being the hanging judge. Tried over 12,000 cases with not over 9,000 convictions, 79 men hung during this time. And we see with the cattle drives, the railroad, the mining, this is opening up the territory. And as we get into the next chapter, it's going to talk about the neighborhood being crowded, neighboring states coming in. We see the undeveloped lands are going to be developed over time, and this is going to put pressure on the native tribes for settlement, especially white settlement in their territory. Well, that does it for chapter 10. We'll have chapter 11 soon. See you then.